Morning channel friends.
Welcome back.
It feels like forever, but we are dressed as we were last week since we are still here. We have split these episodes due to the large room, and I want to help people focus on details. Today, you will be here with your decoration on the paneling. So, before telling you what Ale has to teach, let's get started. We left you like this. We are dressed the same way because we stopped last week with Alessandra, who has to start her project in this room, because we decided to restyle everything, a very large space, by changing positions, furniture, colors, paneling, thanks also to the help of Luca, who will help me not only with style choices, but also with furnishing it. And I called Alessandra because I am pleased to have her touch on these walls. Well, obviously from the paneling part.
Absolutely.
She loves these spaces. I was sure she would find the key to doing a spectacular job, even though we played a little trick on you by using such a dark color, because it's not so easy to interpret for creating a play of light and shadows.
It should be well balanced.
Tell us what you have decided about the paneling colors.
Our base color is pepper blue, which you have already applied to the entire paneling.
If they see last week's episode, they will see we used a coat of Magic Paint Pepper Blue and a coat of Magic Wool Pepper Blue. It's perfect. The wall is water repellent, washable, scented, allowing the brush to glide smoothly. She will work very well, and you won't need any protective paint.
We took the pepper blue, our base color, and lightened and darkened it. This is a general rule for any type of natural moulding. So, today I will show you a specific type of decoration, but this rule also applies if you want to create more complex moulding patterns. We start with the base color, and we need to lighten and darken it to create the lights and shadows. I have already prepared it and I brightened it using Rocher. Whereas, to create the shade I darkened with Nuit Parisienne. A question often asked in courses is how much to lighten, how much to darken. It depends, because there are more pigmented colors that cover more, so you need less paint, and less pigmented colors that require more coverage. Obviously, the Nuit Parisienne is more pigmented, it colors more, so you'll need a bit less of it compared to Rocher. Then it also depends on each person's sense. What I can suggest to you is to always try to find a balance between light and dark. The dark color should not be too dark, nor the light color too light. Otherwise it's not balanced. So if you see, here we have two shades that are neither too light nor too dark compared to pepper blue, which is our base shade. I added just a tiny drop of water, making the brush glide even better on the surface. With the wool the brush glides well, but with a drop of water it glides even better. Since Rocher and Nuit Parisienne are the two colors we use to lighten and darken, I also prepared 2 small cups, one with only Nuit Parisienne and one with only Rocher, to add maximum light and maximum shadow.
What would have happened if I used clear sand or Sophio instead of Rocher to create the light?
In this case, it is more suitable to use Rocher, as it is a light color but not white. White, like Sophio, up to clear sand, for this type of work, where we have a dark base, would have been a risky choice.
And I really like it because Rocher blends well with the colored background.
It's a warm base color echoing the upper panels.
And you always say it's better not to use blacks, but today we used it because the base is so dark that it required a darker shadow. It's something decorators don't do very often, right? Using pure black.
We usually use brown or dark blue, but there was not enough contrast. We need a darker color.
She has already made a board. but I am not showing you yet, and it is very cool. I like it because this will be the frame that supports the ceiling, and that's beautiful. I wanted something that would help to highlight even more the antique look. You should also be skilled and know when to stop with the decoration, because she could have made 8 moldings and fantastic, exceptional panels, but they would have clashed a bit with what is above. So they wouldn't have framed it. It would have been too much.
It's a bit like having a beautiful dress that already makes a statement.
And then too much makeup, too many earrings, too many accessories. It wasn't necessary. I'll leave you so you and Franco can start with the paneling, and I'll come and go with some furniture.
See you later. For this paneling, we chose a very simple molding as it shouldn't overshadow all the designs on the upper part. We have therefore decided to draw specific lines because in this case we have many sockets in the upper part. A tip I can give you to speed up the process and make it easier is to take measurements, but take them on a wooden stick, because if we measure every time with the tape measure, it becomes a very challenging and demanding task. If instead we mark the measurement, as I did, on the wooden stick we already have the exact references that will be the same for the entire paneling. I use a white pencil since there is a dark background. A black pencil would not visible. I am now going to carefully draw my point of reference, which is exactly where the markings are, and I will do it both horizontally and vertically. So I place my stick right here. You see that here are the 2 marks, so I simply transfer these 2 marks exactly as they are. At this point, using a spirit level, I will carefully draw straight lines. I draw the 2 vertical lines that mark my maximum space. In this particular case, the choice of measurement is definitely not random. Here we will report exactly the measurement we have on the vertical slats, because we do not want to interfere with what is already there, so keeping the same measure will certainly be less impactful. Therefore, I draw the 2 verticals, which will be the maximum space for me, within which I will then explain how to add the threads. The threads, concerning decoration, are those fine lines that are drawn freehand, so without the use of masking tape, only with a brush and a wooden stick. I then carefully trace the 2 horizontal lines. In this particular case, on this paneling, we will work as if our decoration goes under these strips. So even if you have a paneling at home that already has decorative elements, be very careful and assess whether it is better to go underneath or stay on top.
Ale, can I ask you something? If I want to do this whole thing here on the wall where I don't have any wood, maybe I can put a thread of wood. Can I do that? Is there any trick? Could I do it on a wall?
You can do it the same way.
It doesn't matter that there is wood today.
Not at all.
I can do the same thing on a wall. I have to measure the proportions as you explained.
Yes, same method.
A molding to separate.
I'll go. I will continue to trace the rest of the panel and show you how to properly add the lights and shadows. If, like me, you sometimes aren't very precise when drawing the corner, remember that when working on the wall, we can easily erase the pencil mark. Using a very damp and wrung-out cloth, we go over and remove the excess parts. Working on the wall, in addition to having great fluidity, also gives us the possibility to erase and correct the pencil's marks. I have finished tracing the entire pattern inside this paneling. Now we will start painting it. The first thing we do is take a piece of paper tape and place it on the corner. In this case, when you are facing the corner, place a piece of paper tape like this, tilted at 45 degrees, so that it goes from the outer corner to the inner corner, like this. This will help us ensure that our frame has exactly a 45 degrees corner, which is nothing more than what happens in reality. See this 45 degrees cut angle. We will replicate this with paper tape. And without this help, I can assure you that the result will not come out well. So let's put the tape on. I take a flat-tipped brush. It can also be a round-tipped brush. The important thing is that it has fairly fine bristles, allowing us to do the thread. The thread is just this line that is made freehand. We help ourselves with a stick of wood. Any piece of wood will do, as long as it is light. We hold it from the top and use the handle of the brush in this way. We make it slide on the wooden stick. In this way, the line will certainly be straight because our support is straight. So let's take some color. In this case, I start from the dark, so from the shadow, which will be placed on the left side, because we consider having light from the right side, as in our case we have a window on the right side. So the light coming from here will cast a shadow on the left side. Let's take the color. Always remember to hold the brush from the end. You will have more flexibility and fluidity on the line. Lean the stick to the paneling. And always keep it slightly detached from the bottom, as if you place the stick like this and draw the line, once you remove it, the line will be smudged. So, hold the stick slightly away, lean the brush on the surface holding it from the end and draw a line. This will be my first shadow line. As you can see here, I have already masked the socket as my line will go over it, so I have masked it to avoid staining it. And now, I also place a small piece of paper tape at the end, always at a 45 degrees angle, just like we did before, in order to create what you see here, this corner with this 45 degrees inclination. I pick up some color again, unload the brush, and continue the line that I had previously interrupted in this way. I'll pick up where I interrupted and I'm going down. By putting the tape both above and below, you don't need to worry about finishing the line because you can easily go over the tape, which will be removed anyway. You'll have a precise line where the corner joint is. If you didn't use the tape, you would always be worried about making a precise line. But you can proceed with confidence with this method. After making this first shadow line, we make a second one. With Elisa and Luca, we chose a simple moulding today. We had to make it look embossed because we have a very dark base, so at least a double line of shadow is necessary. If you are working on a paneling or a wall with a medium base, a medium shade, you can also opt for a single line of shadow because it will be more visible. In this case, since we have a dark background, let's say that our double line of shadow is definitely a reinforcement. Voila! Once I have made the two shadow lines that are well defined with the same brush that will be almost empty because the color from the reservoir has already been used to make the first line, I will create a gradient between the two lines. This will create the feeling of a groove, of a kind of a small soft curve, which only with the two sharp lines I cannot achieve. So I lay the stick back down to have reference at all times. And with the brush never on its tip like we did for the thread, but flat, I will do this. I will fray the color already there. I lean the wooden stick, and I carry on until I reach the tape. With the same brush, just rinsed, we will make the 2 lines of light. So we take the color, unload the brush, place the stick always slightly away from the bottom, and draw a fine line using the tip of the brush, therefore perpendicular to our surface. I am just going to draw the thread and then carry on. In this case, I am going over the socket. This is why I needed to carefully mask with protective masking tape. I take the color again and go to make a second line. I am moving it more to the left, giving it the same distance between the 2 shadow lines. I do this and carry on from where I stopped, and then with the unloaded brush, I carefully rest the stick and go to fray. In this way, make sure you work flat and no longer with the brush tip. The fraying does not have to be uniform everywhere because, being a blurred line, it is nice that it is more visible in some areas than in others. We have finished 2 lines of shadow and 2 lines of light. We wait for it to dry and we'll add 2 more. We have let the threads dry. Now I'll apply the maximum light and the maximum shadow. Since it needs to be a thinner line, we are going to use a finer round-tipped brush than used earlier. Let's start with the light. So we take Rocher, drain the brush, and with the stick we do the same thing as before. Let's draw a median line between the 2 light areas we created previously. I place the stick down again, hold the brush from the end, and carefully draw this very thin line. This will stand out more because it is lighter. We don't need it as thick as the previous one, we can do it a bit thinner. I continue, link up and go all the way down. We can move on to the dark line. Here we will make 2. 1 at the bottom and 1 halfway between the 2. We take the black, unload it, and restart. I recommend starting with the middle one first and then moving to the left because this way, by going to the left, you won't smudge or touch the line you've already made with your hand. So I just start from the middle one, place the stick, start again and draw this line. I connect, start again and go all the way. In this way, I move on to the second one. I position myself on the line and start again here. This way, I have basically completed the first vertical part of the moulding. I can remove the paper tape without necessarily waiting for these lines to dry. You see, by removing the tape, I have a perfect 45 degrees angle. Likewise, I can remove the paper tape underneath. Once the lines are dry, I will put the paper tape at a 45 degrees angle on this part. We will work on the horizontal part. The vertical part is dry. Let's take a piece of paper tape and position it at 45 degrees on the part we have already done, like this. We take the stick and do the same thing we did before, keeping the lights exactly at the top, because the light comes from the top right, and the shadows at the bottom, maintaining the same exact thicknesses, the same lines, and the same tones. So we take the light, and this time the stick will be placed in this way, always detached from the background, but placed in this way. We mentioned earlier that we will stay behind the slat. So I start here, draw the line and go to the paper tape. Same thing here, we keep it a bit lower, we draw the second line, like this. And then with the brush, without dipping it in the color, I'll fray the color. Like this. Now I draw the two dark lines. I start with the upper one, so that when we do the second one, we won't smudge the first one. Let's do the first one here. Nicely defined. Let's do the second one on the line we previously drew with a pencil. And I blend with the remaining paint on the brush. We wait for this to dry to apply the maximum light and maximum shadow. While this dries, I move to this part, leaving this of course pepper blue. While these threads were drying, I did the left side. Now I continue here. So I take the maximum light with the fine brush and draw the median line. I take the black, drain it well, so in this way I also round off the tip of the brush nicely. I start from here and, as I told you, I will make two lines. I will begin by drawing a median line right here, then I'll do another one at the bottom. Just like this. Now we can remove the paper tape, like this, and we will add a small detail that makes the edge appear very realistic. Let's take a little bit of Rocher. I lean the other hand so that it is more stable and steadier, but above all so that I don't smudge the lines that are still wet with my hand, and I draw a diagonal line that further highlights the 45 degrees edge. I have also placed the tape on the lower part, again at a 45 degrees angle. I am going to do the same thing. Let's remember that the lights are always at the top, whether we are above or below, to the right or to the left. The lights are always at the top. So, I draw the line like this and then I fray the color in the middle. In this corner, obviously, we will have a different situation compared to what we have above, because here we will have a play of light and shadows. You can see that on the left side we have the shadows, and the shadows also fall below the tape. These shadows will hit the lights at a 45 degrees angle, unlike the piece above where the light continues and the shadow continues below. Here, instead, we will have a change of light and shadow. I take the dark color and carefully draw the two shadow lines. If you are working in very hot environments or particularly well-ventilated areas, remember to occasionally add a drop of water because the wall tends to form a slight film. So in this case, if it happens and you see that the brush is no longer gliding as well as before, remember to add a drop of water. As before, we let it dry before removing the tape. When the threads are dry, we will make the light line and 2 shadow lines. I let it dry and continue with the rest of the paneling. I draw the last 2 lines before removing the tape. So, the line of light. I take the fine brush, like this, and then with the black. Same thing, middle line and lower line. I remove the tape, and here I will do the same thing that I did before. Do you see how the lights and shadows turn opposite? So I take the black and draw a small vertical line on the bottom part here, and I draw it here as well. Like this. Then I take the white. I always use the stick to help me, because in the lower part it's a bit more uncomfortable. And I go on to draw a white line. Like this. So we have just the edge, as in reality, traced at 45 degrees.
How are you? I'm not tired. I'm excited because the more we progress, the more we see the ideas we had at the beginning come to life, which excites us and keeps us going well.
You will have to furnish.
Yes.
We mustn't make it look too serious, like a notary's office, because Franco will come and say it looks like a notary's office. You know how is he. Let's start with this piece of furniture we decided to change as it's not an antique piece. And I'll tell you how you can see it's not an antique piece. Look, if you open the drawer and look at the wood part, you will see that it is actually, let's say, quite recent wood. Furthermore, when looking at the sides, you will notice that they do not have the classic dovetail insert. To determine if furniture is really old, open the drawer. If you see a small triangular insert resembling a dovetail, it's likely 100 years old. Luca decided to do almost a full immersion of tone-on-tone color.
Yes, we'll use the marble's colors. We will make the structure black, Nuit Parisienne. But I will remove the drawers.
We strip them. You paint. I strip the drawers, but I'll put the gloves on. Okay, I'll do this and Luca will paint the structure with Nuit Parisienne, our black. Why is this? Because having a neutral structure makes paneling, walls, and marble stand out more. Let's get started. We don't have much space, Luca, so the marble needs to stay there, and with a nice 5 centimeter wide paper tape, we will mask the edges. If you are at home alone and can't move things around too much, and you want to work comfortably without breaking anything, remember to tape and mask everything well. Emma and I are unscrewing these old knobs because, although I am a traditionalist, and we do keep them as we always have, I don't use them. They almost look like heraldic emblems to me, and I don't like them. They're unpleasant. What do you think? I agree. We'll keep them aside, put them together with the others, and here we'll use another type of knob, but I don't like these. Now, the key we found is perfect as it makes the lock work. And this is wonderful, as when a piece of furniture this old has a working lock, it is truly wonderful. I start applying the paint remover. You often ask how to get into crevices. You have to be smart. I obviously apply it with the brush. We won't use the architetta, and when I have to massage the paint remover on surfaces, I use small brushes like these. Ensure they have soft bristles. You can often find them in discount stores. They are brushes for household cleaning, nothing too expensive. However, with these, you can easily massage into the indentations of the moldings. You can remove as much of the paint that is peeling off as possible. So Emma, grab a 30 brush as well and let's start removing the paint. Remember that the paint remover must never dry out to work properly. So you can't apply the paint stripper, leave and come back after 3 hours and wonder why it hasn't worked. The paint remover works effectively, but it should not be forgotten on the surface. That's why I apply it and stay here. And I keep massaging it with my brush back and forth, because once it works, it does it quickly. In the first 10 minutes, it's done its job. It's up to us to keep it from drying by massaging. Look, in some spots, it's starting to become transparent. That's the great thing. When it becomes transparent so quickly, it means that it is already dissolving the underlying paint. So you just need to keep massaging in this way, and you will see that it works perfectly at the speed of light. I recommend using the film to remove the paint only when there are very windy days and you are outside, because if you really need to step away, the film helps you, but you cannot leave it with the film for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours once applied. Sometimes I have people who leave the paint remover there for 24 hours. There is no point, okay. There are instructions, a guideline from minimum to maximum, but every piece of furniture is different. It's different to remove something like this, or to remove 3, 4 coats of paint, okay. So remember to apply it with a brush maybe not too nice, not too new, all right. You should apply the paint remover and keep massaging the surface, preventing the paint remover from drying out. I do this on this drawer and on the others as well. Luca, look how well that paint remover is coming off. Are you starting? Make sure it's very thin, because this furniture is tricky, with many corners that can trick you. Spread the Nuit Parisienne all over, and you'll definitely apply 2 good thick coats, because I want it to be nice and deep. You can start. While we are working, tell me if you are satisfied. You know that we are also good at changing in progress.
The further we go, the more I am satisfied.
All right, good. Having so many corners, it can also help you be more precise and avoid smudging. And then it's good for the grooves. I brush it well, so the paint remover doesn't dry out, especially since it's already hot. And so it works even better. Emma, please apply the stripper to the other drawers. Emma is massaging the second and the third drawer. Here, we are good. Notice that our paint remover changed from light green to brown. It has dissolved the top transparent paint. How do we strip paint professionally? You need a bucket with very hot water and some ammonia, half a glass. Half a glass of ammonia in water. I use a brush to work well on mouldings and a microfiber cloth. Be careful, it should not be a sponge that's too wet. Why? Because we have removed the finish, the wood is no longer shiny and absorbent. and it does not need to be soaked with water. Use it only to help remove the paint stripper. So I take my cloth, wring it out really well, and use the longest fiber it has. I start from one side, trying to see if the paint remover has worked well, and notice a beautiful grain is already starting to show. But I obviously need to go in depth to remove the excess. So I take some water. I remove it, but I can't afford to leave this surface too damp, so I immediately wipe off the excess with a cloth. In fact, a beautiful walnut grain is emerging, and it's very wonderful. It deserved to be highlighted. So, Luca, you were right.
Thanks.
And little by little you remove everything. Can't find a small brush. You can also use toothbrushes, the stiffer ones that you can find at the supermarket. They can help you to go well in the mouldings and to remove the excess. This small amount of ammonia removes the greasiness of the remaining materials on the surface. This step is crucial. Most importantly, do not leave the surface damp even for a moment. Look how nourished and smooth it is. You can see a beautiful vein on this design. Remember that wood can't be left in its natural state. It needs nourishment to prevent drying and cracking from heat and other reasons. We'll decide later whether to use jasmine wax, oil, or the restaurateur.
Eliza has gone to do the Wednesday live broadcast. I'm looking at this chest of drawers and it's missing something. I thought to take advantage of the room decorations. With tracing paper, I'll trace a design and transfer it here, hoping Eliza likes it. So, I take the sheet of tracing paper and place it on the wall. I won't use paper tape as these paintings are old and I don't want to cause any damage. At home, you can also use paper tape and trace the design in this very simple way. There you go, the design is complete. I have it here and I'll explain how to transfer it to furniture. Now, I reverse the drawing, so I have the bottom part. We need chalk and a pen. With the chalk, today I used a light-colored chalk to transfer the image onto a dark background. Instead, I would use a dark-colored chalk for a light background. I rub the chalk this way, filling in the entire area that I will need to transfer. I do it roughly. I don't need to be precise. Now, I take the drawing, which will obviously have the part with the design we previously made in sight, and with the pen, I trace the border and transfer it to the furniture. I have marked the center of the panel with a white pencil, which will be erasable with a damp cloth. I will transfer the design. This will be my center. I place it here. And secure the sheet with 4 small pieces of paper tape so it doesn't move. If the sheet does move, don't worry, remove it, erase the drawing with a damp cloth and start again. I start to transfer the design. I used a pen because to do it I need a sharp object and the pencil is not sharp enough. I am going to do this. I trace it and if you look, the design is transferred here. It doesn't matter if the pen doesn't write. The key is to trace all the lines so the design is transferred onto the furniture. This is a quick method. It is not the pouncing technique that we have already explained in detail. It is an alternative way to transfer a design onto furniture, but also onto a wall. The design is traced out. I remove the paper and here it is, transferred. Ignore this line still visible and all the dirty parts, because at the end of the work we simply wipe with a damp wrung-out cloth and all the chalk traces will disappear. To paint the decoration, we will use very natural shades to match the front, which has drawers in raw wood. We are making a base shade that is a combination between Rocher and vintage. I am going a bit by eye. I'll use a base of Rocher, to which we will add just a little touch of vintage, just so it is not too light. I start to mix with a brush. Let's see the shade that comes out. I add a little bit more. I add a little bit of water just so the brush will glide better, just a tiny drop. The color shouldn't be too diluted, otherwise, when working vertically, you risk the paint running. Just a minimum amount to give smoothness, like this. I start filling in the base spaces. As you can see, I am using a wrist rest to help keep my hand a bit steadier. You can also easily make this wrist rest yourself at home by taking a light wooden stick. Make a ball with some newspaper and then cover it with a piece of fabric just to ensure that the furniture does not get damaged when you lean the wrist rest. This is really a great help, especially when you are working on the wall. I am doing this filling work, which will be a flat color, and I am going to apply it over the entire decoration. A piece of advice I can give you when filling in the base is to first use a round brush, but when you go to fill in, don't do it randomly. Always fill in with a sense of direction in your brush strokes, because even though it is a base color, this will help to follow the movement a bit and make our composition more harmonious and gentle. You can see that in this specific case, I have followed the direction of the leaf. Let's add some highlights to this decoration. They won't be real light and shadows, just some shades to evoke the warmth of the wood. On the palette, I have put pure dark sand in vintage, which we will use for the lights and darks. With just a little bit of water, I slightly dilute the vintage, like this, so that it almost becomes a watercolor effect. You see that they are barely visible, but as we said, they should only be highlights. In this way, we make our darker part. Now, we take the dark sand, which will be our light part, and blend it into the dark shade that is not yet dry. You see, in this way it frays well and blends. If you want to blend it further, you can also take a little bit of water and spread the color. You see, this way it just mixes even better. I take the light part, come here while the dark part is not yet dry, always following the direction of the leaf to create a fluid movement, And if necessary, with a little water, I spread the color even more so that it blends even better. I'll finish this design and then replicate it in the same way on the other part of the furniture.
Hi. What are you doing?
No, I took initiative.
Beautiful. I like this color variety. You have echoed the color of the drawers. I still need to apply wax to the drawers. They will change, but I like it. It also really picks up the color of the marble. Where did you take this design? Behind you. Oh yes, I do see it often. Beautiful, I like it. Thanks for the surprise, I love it. I'll go and finish. So I'll apply the wax over this drawer, so you can also see the shade and understand well how to finish it because it's awesome, it completely changes. But we won't show it finished now, we'll show it next week along with the new tutorial that we'll do with Luca and his decisions and along with this finished house, because there are still a few touches, the restaurateur on some furniture, a few touch-ups. Let's see tomorrow if I will apply the restaurateur and your project needs protection. We'll see you next Thursday with the final tutorial of our series. You'll see this part of the house finished. Don't miss it.